Welcome to this course, Dynamo for Revit, Programming with Python. In this course, we're going to go over how to use Python from a Revit user's point of view within Dynamo. So let's go over a few of the topics today. First, we're going to go over the introduction of this course, which we're doing right now. And there are a few prerequisites for this course in order for you to be the most successful that you can be. We'll also cover a little bit of what Dynamo is. One of the prerequisites is that you have an awareness of Dynamo and kind of are a bit familiar with it. Ideally, you're someone who's used Dynamo to build graphs and you want to start to create your own custom nodes. That's what this course is aimed for, but we will still cover quite a few of the essentials for you. We're also going to cover what is Python. So Python's a programming language, but there's a definition that's really handy to have as well. In addition to the definition that people use for Python, we'll define how we're going to use it in regards to Revit and Dynamo. My name is John Pearson. I'm a design technology specialist at a company called Parallax Team, and I build Revit plugins, Dynamo graphs, and all sorts of different workflows to help automate Revit. After learning Dynamo myself, I quickly became interested in Python. So I started to build custom nodes for a package called Rhythm. Logically, after using out-of-the-box nodes combined together to build the custom package, Python was that next step for me. From there on, I went and started using C# as well, and now Rhythm is primarily C# based. There was a good season though that Rhythm was Python based. That was probably for about a year. And that's always a good next step if you're someone who's wanting to build your own custom nodes to access the Revit API in a really great way. The prerequisites for this course are knowing what Revit is and being a Revit user. Generally, I tell people a knowledge of Revit that's required is for you to know things like what a type parameter is versus an instance parameter, or what a wall type is versus what a wall instance is, and so on. So you have to have had an awareness of Revit and how it thinks. In order to automate things, it's nice to know how the core software thinks. We are going to be in Revit 2023 for this course, but these workflows will work all the way back to Revit 2021. In addition to Revit 2023, we are going to be in Dynamo 2.13. This is the Dynamo version that has the darker nodes now, if you're familiar with Dynamo, and that's the version we will be using in this course. So with Dynamo, you have to be familiar enough to where you've placed a few nodes, connected some wires, and made a few graphs. Once again, if you are someone who's pretty new to Dynamo, we are going to introduce things in a little bit of a beginner way in some of the lessons as well. That being said, you can use these workflows, like I said, all the way back to Revit 2021, which has Dynamo 2.6. The only difference is your nodes are going to look a little bit different. So if you are using an older version, you will be able to follow along in this course. It will just have a different visual look to it. And if there's any point to where things differ, I will be sure to point those out in the lessons as well. So first, what is Dynamo? Dynamo is a visual programming environment that can be attached to a whole variety of design applications. In our case, that means Revit, but for other people, or for you even, it could mean Civil 3D, Formit, robot structural analysis, Alias, or a whole variety of Autodesk products primarily. That being said, Dynamo can connect to other platforms using their APIs, which is really cool. In our case, we're going to focus on using Dynamo and Python for Revit. So we're going to access the Revit API in that way. That being said, these Python skills that you will obtain in this course can apply to making custom nodes for other platforms. So keep that in mind as well. What is Python? So this definition is right from python.org, and Python is an interpreted, object-oriented, high-level programming language that does not need compiling. The most important part of that statement for us is the fact that it does not need compiling. So with Dynamo and Python, you can just create a Python script right in the editor and keep on hacking at it to see what it does. It's a really great next step for people wanting to kind of take Dynamo up another notch because you can enter code, see what it does, and kind of keep going from there. Very much like how Dynamo works, and that's why I really like Python as well. Once again, we are going to introduce it in a practical point of view for Revit users, and we'll see how that works as we get into the lessons. For this course, we can define Python slightly different. In our case, Python allows Dynamo users to take Dynamo to another level by allowing quick access to the Revit API within Dynamo itself. So after typing a little bit of code, we can start to really poke at the Revit API quickly, which is really awesome. So that's how we're going to define it for this course. That in mind, we'll go ahead and jump into the next lesson, and I look forward to continuing this journey along with you on your part of your Dynamo journey to learn Python.